Waylon Jennings was a huge star in country music, but his real life was just as wild and uncontrolled as his image as an outlaw. But few people know the scary truth that was left behind. He had 4 wives, 6 children, and a lot of personal problems that almost destroyed him in the past. Now his house is empty and quiet. From #1 on the charts to being unable to stop using drugs, Jennings' last days were full of sadness and thought. Let's look at what he left behind during his life. This movie may surprise even his biggest fans. Waylon Jennings was a huge name in the history of country music. He had a life full of both musical success and personal hardship. He had a hard life for many years, and it finally caught up with him in the form of a number of major health problems that ended in his untimely death in 2002. Jennings had a hard time with a way of life that was just as intense and rebellious as the outlaw country scene he helped create. His body is in bad shape after decades of heavy smoking, drug abuse, and a bad diet. He was almost never seen without a cigarette in his hand for years, and finally smoked an amazing 6 packs a day. Jennings also had a hard time with drug abuse, especially to cocaine. In 1984, he was finally able to quit, but a lot of damage had already been done. Being overweight and still dealing with the effects of drug use and smoking for a long time put a lot of stress on his heart and general health. Even though Jennings stopped using cocaine, he continued to smoke regularly until 1988, when he finally quit. This was an important but long overdue step toward improving his condition, which was getting worse. In the same year, he had heart bypass surgery, which was a big procedure that showed how bad his health problems were. Even though the surgery fixed his heart problems right away, it was the start of a long and hard fight with other long-term health problems. The fact that Jennings got type 2 diabetes was one of the worst effects of his way of life. Over the years, this condition got worse and worse until it was so bad by 2000 that it made it very hard for him to move around. The artist who used to be full of energy and had spent years traveling and entertaining people all over the country was spending more and more time at home. It became almost impossible for him to go on tours, which had been an important part of his life and work. In that year, Jennings had surgery to try to improve the blood flow to his left leg. This was a clear sign that his diabetes was getting worse and hurting his heart health. Sadly, the things he did to control the problems of his diabetes were not enough to stop its worst effects. In December 2001, Jennings was taken to a hospital in Phoenix, where doctors had to cut off his left foot because of serious problems. Even though the amputation was medically required, it showed how much worse his health had become. It made his life even worse and showed that his fight with diabetes was reaching its last and most dangerous stage. If you remember, Waylon Jennings died in his sleep on February 13, 2002, from problems caused by his diabetes. He was 64 years old. There will never be another like him in country music. His fans, friends, and family will miss him very much. He died at his home in Chandler, Arizona, which was very different from the crazy wild world he had lived in before. 2 days after that, on February 15th, there was a memorial service to celebrate his life and work. Jessie Coulter, his wife and fellow singer, gave one of the most moving tributes when she sang "Storms Never Last." It was a touching and heartfelt tribute to their lasting bond through years of both trouble and love. Jennings was buried in the city of Mesa Cemetery in Mesa, Arizona, which is close by. Fans and family still go there to pay their respects. 1. Jennings's personal life was just as full of drama and interesting stories as his famous singing career. He went through 4 marriages, had 6 kids, and dealt with the ups and downs of addiction, fame, and personal growth over the years. His love, sadness, and family life had a big impact on his songwriting, especially the honest feelings that come through in many of his hits. In 1956, when he was only 18, Jennings got married for the first time. He married Maxine Carol Lawrence, and the 2 of them had a child right away. They had 4 kids together. This early union, which happened before Jennings became famous, was marked by the normal problems that come with being young and not having enough money. His singing goals and the needs of a growing family made it hard for him to keep the marriage together, and in the end it ended because of the stress. Once he was no longer married to Maxine, Jennings married Lynn Jones on December 10, 1962. During their time together, they adopted a daughter, which made Jennings' family even bigger. But this second marriage didn't last either. They got a divorce in 1967 because of the stress of a rising job and the difficulties of staying stable in their personal lives. During the same year, Jennings married Barbara Elizabeth RDE for the third time. Not much is known about how this relationship worked, but it too ended in divorce after a short time. The emotional weight of all the relationships that didn't work out for him during these years made him write some songs that were more thoughtful. These hard times in Jennings's life led to one of his most famous songs. He wrote the song because of the trouble in his past relationships. It shows both the hope of new love and the scars of past pain. This one, which came out in 1974, really hit home with fans and went straight to the top of the country lists. Its success was a turning point in his career and showed how he turned personal problems into hits in the music business. It wasn't until 1969 that Jennings met the person who would become his most loyal and long-lasting partner. He got married to fellow country star Jessi Colter in Phoenix, Arizona, on October 26 that year. Colter, whose real name was Miriam Johnson, was already a well-known artist. She brought with her a daughter named Jennifer from her marriage to musician Dwayne Eddy. Soon, Jennings and Colter were one of the most famous couples in country music. During the 1970s, they often performed and recorded together. In 1979, Jennings and Colter had a son named Juan Albright Jennings, who they called Shooter. Shooter would go on to become a performer on his own, carrying on the family's musical tradition. They did have a hard time getting married, though. Jennings' ongoing fight with drug abuse, especially his heavy cocaine use, put a lot of stress on their relationship by the early 1980s. During this time, they were very close to getting a divorce, but Colter stood by him as he worked to get clean, which showed a lot of strength and love. Later, Jennings said that her steadfast support was a big part of his recovery. In 1990, Jennings made a big change in his life that showed he was becoming more responsible for his actions. After dropping out of high school many years ago, he chose to get his GED not only to improve himself, but also to show his young son, Shooter, how to treat others with respect. Even though he was still on tour, Jennings worked hard at studying. On his tour bus in 1989, he started to watch educational tapes from the Kentucky Educational Television Network. He was determined to finish school, even though it was hard because of his job and health problems. This showed how much he wanted to be a better father and role model. Coming into contact with amphetamines and then stronger drugs in the middle of the 1960s changed Waylon Jennings's life in a big way. During this time, Jennings stayed with Johnny Cash, another famous country music star who had a history of drug abuse. It was there that he learned about a way of life that was based on constant energy and artificial stimulation. When Jennings thought back on those years, he said, "Pills were the artificial energy that kept Nashville going all the time." This was a shocking admission that showed how seriously drug use had gotten into the fast-paced, high-stress music business in Nashville. In the 1970s, Jennings's drug use grew along with his fame. By 1977, his drug use had gotten so bad that it got him in trouble with the law. In that year, federal agents arrested Jennings on charges of conspiracy and having cocaine with the goal to sell it. This could be the end of his career. An unofficial messenger told the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, about a strange package sent from New York to Jennings that had 27 grams of cocaine in it. Based on this tip, police and DEA officers raided Jennings' private recording studio, but Jennings got rid of the proof before a search warrant was officially issued. This may have been because he was quick on his feet or desperate. The charges were finally dropped because the police did not have the package that would have been used as evidence. This scary run-in with the law had a big effect on Jennings's life. Later, he wrote about the event in his song, "Don't You Think This Outlaw Bit's Done Got Out of Hand," which was partly autobiographical and showed that he was becoming more self-aware and maybe starting to see how dangerous his outlaw image was. But instead of making him change for good, the event only stopped his problem from getting worse for a short time. Spiraling. By the beginning of the 1980s, Jennings was abusing drugs very badly, mostly cocaine. Later, he admitted that he spent up to $1,500 a day on the drug. In 2024, that amount, adjusted for inflation, would be more than $5,000 a day. His finances were drained by this huge expense, which put him on the verge of bankruptcy and left him with a bill of about $2.5 million. Even though it hurt his health and business, Jennings refused to break his promises. He took on more trips because he was determined to pay off what he owed. Even so, his performances at this time were all over the place, shaky and unfocused, because his addiction was getting worse. Jennings tried a personal rescue when he realized he was losing control. He rented a house in the Phoenix, Arizona area and detoxed on his own for a month. His goals were not yet in line with true recovery, though. It was said that he planned to start using cocaine again afterward, but in a more limited way. Still, this time of solitude and thought set a seed of change. In 1984, he realized that he had a bigger duty as a father. This was the real turning point, not another arrest or a problem at work. Jennings said that his young son Shooter was the main reason he finally gave up cocaine for good. His desire to be with his child and be healthy gave him a new sense of purpose. With that as a reason, Jennings quit cocaine for good, marking a strong moment of redemption after abusing drugs for almost 20 years. Let's talk about some of Waylon Jennings's well-known products now. The first one is Southern Comfort in Brentwood, Tennessee. The estate that Waylon Jennings and Jessie Coulter used to own is at 1824 Old Hickory Boulevard in Brentwood, Tennessee. It is a strong reminder of both family life and musical history. It was built in 1972 and was 6,219 square feet. It was more than just a house. It was a safe place, a place to get together, and a place where one of country music's most famous couples could work and be creative. The house had 4 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, so it had plenty of room for family, friends, and musicians who often worked together. But it still had a cozy Southern feel that fit Jennings and Coulter's tastes and way of life. The land was important to Jennings in 2 ways. In addition to being a place to get away from the stress of traveling and the music business, it was also a place where people could enjoy and make music. The 2,500 square foot recording studio, which was made just for Jennings and became the center of his creative work, was the most important part of the house. A lot of Jennings's most valuable guitars and master tapes were kept in this studio. It was like a secret archive of his life's work. Some of the best times to write, record, and improve songs were here, with close friends and other artists stopping by for jam sessions or just to relax. The house made it hard to tell the difference between work, play, art, and everyday life. This let Jennings make his criminal sound without having to leave his house. At 824 Old Hickory Boulevard, the guest list looked like a who's who of country music stars. Friends like Johnny Cash and George Jones often came over, and the house became known for its famous poker games and unplanned concerts. The sense of community that grew inside those walls helped the illegal country movement as a whole, something different from the polished, formulaic sounds of Nashville's popular music machine. Artists were free to say what they wanted, break rules, and explore the heart and soul of real country music inside these confines. There was honesty and defiance in the scene, as well as friendship and a deep respect for music. Even though Jennings and Coulter finally moved out, the house kept its musical spirit and historic feel. Lex and Natalia Lipitz bought the estate in 2021. They were very interested in the property's artistic and culture history. Instead of going For a full makeover, the Lipsitzes did a careful renovation that took into account the home's long history, while also making it fit for modern living. They wanted to find a way to keep the house's unique charm, while also making it fit current tastes and needs. It was important that the renovations didn't change the look of the original workshop and gathering areas. This was done to honor the creativity and history that are built into the house itself. Some things, like old woodwork, original plans, and historical design details, were kept or fixed up. The goal wasn't to get rid of the past, but to make it better so that the spirit of Waylon Jennings, the criminal, the inventor, the father, and the friend, clung to every part of the house. The next stop is the Music Row building in Nashville, Tennessee. Waylon Jennings was a key figure in the outlaw country movement. He kept a strong presence in the heart of Nashville's famous Music Row, from his office at 1117 7th Avenue South. This simple building was more than just a place to run things. It was a key hub for Jennings's music business during some of his most creative and successful years. Jennings' office was in an area with a lot of history where many great country and rock records were made. It was a place where people planned, worked together, and came up with new ideas. It showed how independent he was and how deeply he was connected to the music business. Music Row has been the center of Nashville's music business for a long time. It is known for having a lot of recording studios, production houses, and record label offices. Setting up his office there was both a practical and a symbolic move for Jennings. It put him in the middle of everything going on, and gave him the chance to make a name for himself with his own style of country music, which often went against Nashville's tightly controlled commercial sound. Jennings could run his business on his own terms at 1117 7th Avenue South. He could also make creative relationships and push the limits of what country music could be. The office was where all of Jennings's business was run, including planning tours, making records, printing, and advertising. Managers, agents, and other workers came together there to help him shape and carry out his mission. At that time, a lot of the popular music business was run in stuffy offices. Jennings's office, on the other hand, was laid back but focused, with a sense of artistic freedom and community. Artists from other groups would often stop by to talk shop, share ideas, tell stories, or just hang out. People there really lived the illegal way of life, not just what they showed to the public. The fact that the famous Chipsman American Sound Studio was in the same building made the place even more important. Chips Moman was a famous singer, songwriter, and producer who was known for working with famous people like Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, and Dusty Springfield. Being in the same room with him gave the building more creative weight and made it a place where country, rock, and soul styles could mix and grow. Moan and Jennings both valued real music, and the fact that they lived close to each other made it easy for them to work together and share ideas that improved Jennings's sound. The fact that American Sound Studio was in the same building gave 1117 7th Avenue South a unique sonic energy. This wasn't just a business address. The walls had been used for decades to play with sound, and producers and performers came together to try something real and new. For Jennings, whose career was built on breaking artistic rules, the building was the right setting for the outlaw country revolution he helped lead. In a lot of ways, the office was a link between Jennings's artistic urges and the tools he needed to share those urges with the world. There, ideas for new albums and tours were hatched, and business choices were made that would help Jennings keep a level of independence that was uncommon in the country music business at the time. Many of Nashville's strict rules didn't apply to his work. Having a home in the middle of Music Row while doing things his own way was a quiet but powerful statement of that defiance. Next up is Chandler, Arizona. Lastly, living place. In the last part of his long and interesting life, Waylon Jennings moved down in Chandler, Arizona, a suburb southeast of Phoenix, to live a quieter life. This desert getaway was a far cry from the fast-paced music scene in Nashville and the constant demands of touring. It gave Jennings a feeling of peace and privacy that he had not had much of during his famous career. In the later years of his life, Jennings spent time in Arizona, where it was warm and quiet, with family, close friends, and the music that had always been a big part of who he was. When Jennings moved to Chandler, it was a big change. By the time he moved there, he had been through decades of both success and failure, including fame as a musician, struggles with addiction, bankruptcy, and forgiveness. He also left a lasting mark on the outlaw country movement, but his health was getting worse quickly. Years of drug abuse, hard living, and complications from diabetes that wasn't addressed for a long time had worn them down. Jennings was determined to keep some of his freedom and dignity, even after a number of medical procedures, including having his left foot amputated in late 2001 because of complications from diabetes. Their house wasn't just a place to rest, it was a safe place. When Jennings was out of the press, he could focus on the things that were important to him, like his relationships and his art. Even though he didn't tour or perform often anymore, music was always a part of his life. He kept writing, recording, and thinking, and he did most of these things with his wife, Jessie Coulter. She was his best friend and mental support through good times and bad. During these last years, their son Shooter Jennings, who was already making music, also spent time with his dad. Family, which was once put to the test by Jennings's fame and drug use, became the most important thing in his life. The sunny, open, and quiet Arizona scene was very different from the chaos of Jennings's younger years. The criminal found some peace and quiet here. Even though his health problems made it hard for him to move around and go to public events, Jennings was known to be smart and highly reflective. He often thought about his life, his legacy, and the music that defined a generation. Friends and fellow. Even though he stayed out of the public eye, he was still a respected figure in the country music world, and musicians would sometimes visit. Waylon Jennings died peacefully in his sleep on February 13, 2002. He was 64 years old. He had been fighting diabetes for a long time and was having problems because of it. He died in the peace and quiet of his Chandler home. It was the end of an age for American music in general, not just country music. The man who once shook up Nashville and changed what it meant to be a country artist didn't go out with a bang. Instead, he died with the calm respect of someone who was happy with his life's path. When Jennings died, friends, fellow artists, and people in the business he used to fight against sent him a lot of tributes and memories. Even though he died a long way from Nashville and the Texas honky-tonks where his fame began, his impact on music was felt all over the world. The Chandler house turned into more than just a home. It became a sign of ending things, a spot where the criminal could finally rest. In the years since he died, Jennings' time in Arizona has been seen as a time of quiet strength and thought. It was there that the Battle Card Act found peace, became a father, and made the last artistic statements of his life. In his younger years, he was full of rebellion and excess, but in his later years, he was filled with reflection, love, and singing. Chandler, Arizona, may not have as many famous music spots as Nashville or Austin, but for Waylon Jennings, it was the end of the road that led him to music, a place where there is peace, not fame. For those who remember him, that home in the desert is still holy ground. It was the last stop in a life marked by defiance, salvation, and the power of a song. Also Littlefield, Texas, where they were born and lived early on. Locals remember Jennings' childhood home as a simple building fit for a working-class family, even though it isn't well known or kept like some famous people's homes. William Jennings was the son of Lorene and William. William worked on a farm and fought to support his family during the hard times of the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. Having to work long hours and living in poverty as a child shaped Juan's life. West Texas has strong cultural values that shaped his life. Like many boys who grew up in rural areas, Jennings learned early on about both the hard parts of adulthood and the power of music as a way to express himself and escape. From a very young age, Jennings showed a love for singing. He learned to play the guitar when he was 8 years old, and by the time he was 12, he had his own radio show on KV in Littlefield. Being exposed to reporting and performing at a young age gave Jennings the confidence and sense of purpose. He would need to get through the rough years ahead. These formative events in Littlefield, where honky-tonk beats mixed with the hard-scrabble spirit of the West Texas plains, set the stage for the rough, straightforward sound that would later define his music. The town will never forget Juan, even though he left Littlefield to follow his career. People in the area were proud of their ties to the man who brought a piece of West Texas into every smoky bar room and recording studio he went into in the years after he became famous. The Waylon Jennings Museum is a tribute to Littlefield's most famous son. It is run by the community and is in a building that used to be owned by Jennings' brother James as a liquor shop. It is clear that the museum is a sincere and honest tribute to Jennings's life and work. The Waylon Jennings Museum in Littlefield doesn't have the polished displays of bigger cities. Instead, it feels personal and honest, just like the man it honors. People can look through a collection of unique personal items, such as stage clothes, guitars, handwritten songs, and photos from decades of important musical events. One of the most important things about the museum is that it connects Jennings's childhood in Littlefield to his rise to fame around the world. The choice to put the museum in James Jennings's old liquor shop is more than just a gesture. It shows how Juan's strong family bonds kept him grounded throughout his life. Even though he was famous, Jennings often talked about how much he loved his family and how important it was to him. And this small museum is a reminder of how simple, grounded, and deeply Texan his early life was. Littlefield has taken on the tradition with open arms. In addition to the museum, the town sometimes holds events to honor Jennings's music, and there are murals and signs all over town that honor his work. When fans make the trip to Littlefield, they can not only learn more about where Jennings grew up, but they can also get a sense of the strong community spirit that keeps his memory alive. Littlefield is a big part of who Waylon Jennings is in a lot of ways. He traveled the world, changed the course of music, and played to huge crowds, but he never forgot the ideals that his parents taught him on the plains of Texas. Fans still hold a special place in their hearts for the town where he played his first chords and spoke on the radio. Always remember that even the biggest stories have humble beginnings. What do you think about Waylon Jennings? Please tell us what you think in the box below. We hope this video was helpful for you. Kindly click like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Glad you watched, and see you in the next film. Thank you.